Number one, I don't know that happened. And Pete said he did not want them. He didn't even know what people were talking about.
Regarding Venezuela, the president said yesterday that Secretary Hegseth had denied that second strike, the reported second strike on an alleged drug boat on September 2nd, the secretary said to the president that didn't happen. Be clear, does the administration deny that second strike happened, or did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe.
Oh, that's gotta hurt!
So in a normal functioning democracy, we'd call that an admission, right? But Trump's cronies said the Washington Post article was all fake news.
From both sides of the aisle demanding answers from the Trump administration about recent U.S. military operations in the Caribbean. This bipartisan scrutiny comes in the wake of new reporting from the Washington Post that one attack on a boat suspected of smuggling drugs, a follow-up strike was ordered after the initial impact left survivors on board. According to the Post, citing two sources with direct knowledge in a September 2nd strike, the first in the administration's ongoing offensive, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a verbal command to kill everybody on the boat.
So that's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy with respect to the last, and it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.
So to clarify, Admiral Bradley was the one who gave that order for a second strike.
And he was well within his authority to do so.
According to last week's reporting from the Washington Post, the U.S. military carried out a second strike on a suspected drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean, reportedly killing survivors from the first strike as they were defenseless. The first strike on September 2nd, 2025 was publicized by the White House as hitting, quote, a narco-terrorist vessel linked to a Venezuelan cartel. The boat was destroyed and 11 people were reported dead. However, sources familiar with the operation say it didn't end there. After rescue teams observed survivors in the water, it has been reported the Navy was ordered to strike again, killing the remaining people and sinking the vessel, with claims that Hegseth had ordered them to, quote, kill them all.
If they did not see the survivors on that were clinging to the wreckage of the boat, that would be potentially something where they could get out of a charge like that. But if they did see, if they were aware, or if they understood that there was even a possibility of survivors from this, their obligation was to disobey that order.
So disobeying that order. So in other words, if they went ahead and obeyed that order, supposedly, presumably, they might be committing a war crime and could be punished even though their superior officers had ordered them to do so.
Yes, that is correct. So that is one of the problems that you have when it comes to actually handling the laws of warfare, because sometimes in the fog of war, you don't necessarily see all the things that are going on. So a lot will depend on exactly what the responses are to the investigations, like Congress has talked about. Both the House and Senate have talked about investigating this matter. They absolutely need to do that, because this is critical to the way in which not only we fight wars as the United States of America, the types of ROEs or rules of engagement that we follow, but it's also critical in terms of protecting the lives of the people at sea, both U.S. people as well as foreigners.
While I have you, Colonel, turn to Ukraine as well. Lots going on.
So that double tap attack marks a grim escalation. What was first framed as a daring interdiction turned into what some lawmakers and legal experts have called a war crime, a targeted killing of people who were no longer resisting.
If what has been reported is accurate, I've got serious concerns about anybody in that chain of command stepping over a line that they should never step over. We are not Russia. We're not Iraq. We hold ourselves to a very high standard of professionalism. And this is where I'm really troubled about this, is because I have so much respect for people in the United States Navy. I served in the Navy for 25 years, and there is no organization more professional than Navy SEALs. And they should be revered. And that's why I say I hope what I've heard about this strike is not accurate.
And now today, the White House openly confirmed that there was a second strike. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt chose her words surgically as she told reporters today that Admiral Frank Bradley carried out the follow-up strike, stating that it was conducted quote, within his authority and the law.
Did it happen and the administration denies that Secretary Hegseth gave the order?
The latter is true, Abe, and I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration, there was enough fentanyl trafficked into our country to kill every American man, woman, and child many times over. And so that
only to then follow on that Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. That admission alone confirms the darker reports and raises urgent questions, right? If survivors were executed under official orders, what does that say about our standards of justice in warfare?
Alleged Venezuelan drug boats in the Caribbean. A, do you believe that? And B, if he or any other administration officials are found to have been culpable for any war crimes, do you think that Democrats will take any sort of punitive legislative action against them?
The White House is lying, but that's no surprise because they lie for a living and the American people know it. It's my understanding that Pete Hegseth, the so-called Secretary of Defense, was absolutely involved. I think he may have even recently acknowledged that because the facts are incapable of being disputed. And so the question in front of us, and I believe there will be bipartisan investigations in both the House and in the Senate in order to determine whether war crimes were committed and either U.S. law or international law or both were violated.
And this only further highlights the need for transparency in what has just been a black box regarding these attacks, with the administration all but giving hoorah and so what's as their explanation to justify what has now been reported as murder, to put it blatantly. I mean, the identities of those killed, including the reportedly executed survivors, haven't been released. Families, press, Congress, they're all left in the dark. Not to mention that the strikes may violate international laws. Without oversight and clarity, these military interventions could spiral even further, risking diplomatic fallout, more civilian casualties than what's already been discussed, and long-term damage to US credibility, more than what they've already done in such a short space of time.
Well, I think that there's always a choice, and you're right about the demand issue, and I wish that we could do more about that. And this has been going on forever, that we have a drug consumption problem here and a drug supply problem coming from South and Latin America. So I totally get that. But when you're looking at how this fight is being executed at this particular moment, it doesn't make a lot of sense. First and foremost, the fact that no one can confirm that we've actually been taking out narco traffickers or huge drug traffickers, however you want to say it. And last week when we were talking about this, Dana had just seen the alert that the admiral in charge of the Southern Command had resigned. And he was the one who was in charge of this. And the reporting is that he wasn't comfortable with the mission and had been pushing back within the Pentagon. And do you think he would have resigned if everything was by the book? So we have 32 people that have been killed so far, 7 individual strikes. We know that the Colombian president is alleging at least that an innocent fisherman was murdered. We know that there's a family from Trinidad who's saying that a member of their family was killed. And then it is really important that we have repatriated 2 people, one to Colombia, one to Ecuador, because that indicates that we don't have any evidence to prosecute them, that we didn't know who these guys were. Because if you did have evidence, you would bring them before a court. And I know that you're going to make fun of me, and I am prepared for it each and every day, but drug traffickers also have rights. The law applies. We should have the evidence They should be charged with something, and they should come before a court of law. And Rand Paul was on the Sunday shows this weekend, and he said to Kristen Welker, when you kill someone, if you're not in a declared war, which we are not, Congress with the war powers, you really need to know someone's name at least. You have to accuse them of something. You have to present evidence. So all these people have been blown up without any evidence of a crime. They're also saying that it's about fentanyl, and people who analyze the area are saying that there's drugs that go through, but it's mostly cocaine and marijuana that are headed actually to Europe and to Africa. So the government story is not adding up.
But all this leads to what often transpires under a Trump administration, right? We can all sense it's coming. Someone is about to be thrown under the bus.
You have tried twice to pass war powers resolutions that would force President Trump to get approval from Congress first before any military action. Twice you have failed. Do you think the numbers on this will change if there is ground action, and will it even matter at that point?
I do believe the numbers will change. You're right. I along with others, filed a resolution, no war in Venezuela or against Venezuela without congressional approval. It failed, but that was before all of these assets have amassed around Venezuela and before President Trump said that the airspace needs to be closed. I will move with colleagues, Senator Schumer, Senator Paul, Senator Schiff, immediately, should there be military action. And then secondly, I also attempted to stop what I view as illegal boat strikes in the Caribbean and the Pacific together with Adam Schiff. And the circumstances have changed in the months since we had that vote. In each of these instances, we were able to get 2 Republicans to vote together with Democrats. We think the escalating pace and some of the recent revelations. So, for example, the recent revelation about the kill everyone order, apparently dictated by Secretary Hegseth, we do believe that we will get more support for these motions when they are refiled.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.